Hello, I'm Mary Copeland. Welcome to The Road Ahead. The reason I'm talking to you is because I don't want anyone to find themselves in a crisis mode simply because they don't have access to information. Through a series of guests on The Road Ahead, we will help navigate you on your own as you age. We'll help guide you on your journey and that of your aging parents. As a publisher of Compass and Clock, we will help you achieve your best future. So today's guest with me is Richard Tizzano. Richard, welcome to The Road Ahead.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. Richard and I have been working together for the last 6 years to help people plan for their future. Richard is an elder law and an estate planning attorney. He's been servicing the community for 2 decades, and he has helped folks on their unexpected journeys in elder legal issues and long-term care. And if you don't know it, Richard is also an author. He wrote Accidental Safari. This book is about navigating the challenges that come with aging. So great guest to have with us today. Richard, our topic today is going to be about the emergency room and what is the difference about being admitted versus under observation. So let's start there. Can you explain all of that to us, please?
Sure. So many folks, accidental safari starts in the emergency room. So something sudden has happened. Maybe they've had an accident or a stroke, or it may even be a long-term illness like a Parkinson type or dementia issue that has just, the elephant in the room has gotten so big it can't be managed, and so the person ends up in the emergency room. Now, if you're 65 or you have been on Social Security disability for more than 2 years, your main health insurance coverage is through Medicare.
Okay.
And so when you go into the hospital, they're going to run some tests to see if the reason you think you're there is a valid reason to admit you as a patient in the hospital. And the tests may show that, oh, sure enough, you have this issue going on and they can treat the issue, in which case you would be admitted into the hospital as a patient. The other option is that the results would come back totally negative. There doesn't appear to be anything at all going on. There's nothing they think they can help you with at the time, in which case they will ask you to leave or tell you there's nothing they can do for you and that you're done. I always tell folks, if that's the situation and your body is telling you there really is something wrong, it just may not show up at the tests, that you shouldn't just accept that.
Right.
You should go maybe to another emergency room somewhere else, or an urgent care, or go to somebody, be with somebody who you think might be able to call 911 later if something else happened to you. But so there's those 2 options. You're admitted in the hospital or you're released from the emergency room. However, the tests may come back kind of in the gray area where there's something that showed up on the tests. It's not sufficient for Medicare eligibility purposes to admit you into the hospital because they haven't been able to check enough boxes. And so they don't want to send you home because something has showed up. So what they will do is keep you under observation.
Okay.
They may even put you in a room, or they may keep you in the emergency room, but you are not a patient. You haven't been admitted into the hospital as a patient. And so you're kind of in no man's land where Medicare insurance is concerned.
So you're saying I'm in a hospital bed and I'm in a room for this scenario, my question that I'm asking, I'm not in the ER, I'm in a room, and it seems like I'm admitted because I'm in a hospital room and I'm in a hospital bed. So how does Medicare play a role in these two, especially if you are moved out of the hospital and sent to rehab? How does all of this work together?
Okay, so you could actually be in a room and not be admitted as a patient. They're supposed to give you, the hospital's supposed to give you a document that tells you specifically that you are not a patient, you are under observation. Now, that's significant because if you go then from the hospital to rehab, so let's say you've had a TIA, a mini stroke, and it's not exhibiting a lot of symptoms, so they sensed, they did a scan, they saw something was going on, they didn't admit you at the hospital, and they ran some tests for 3 or 4 days, and you've been in the hospital at least 3 days, and you go from the hospital to the rehab facility. So now, how is this paid for? Well, you were in the hospital, but you weren't a patient in the hospital. If you'd been a patient in the hospital, Medicare would pay, if you're qualified for Medicare, they would pay all of your stay in the hospital, and then they would pay 100% of your rehab for the first 20 days of rehab. And that's pretty significant. In a nursing home typically is where we get rehab here in our county. So that would be about $550 a day or $500 a day, let's say, round numbers.
Times by 20 days,
20
you're
days,
talking over $10,000.
$10,000. However, if you were in the hospital and you were under observation in the hospital, even if you were there for the 3 days or longer, and then you go to rehab, Medicare will pay nothing. And so it's a significant difference, right? So you're there 20 days. If you had been there if you had been a patient and then went to rehab, that would be paid by Medicare. If you were only under observation and then you go to rehab, Medicare pays nothing.
So in the 2 pictures that you painted, if you're admitted and you're in the hospital for 3 midnights and your physician moves you to rehab, Medicare pays 100% of the first 20 days. If you were under observation, there's no Medicare coverage. What happens after 20 days, though? I mean,
well, if you are under
your
Medicare,
bill?
if you're under Medicare, Medicare will pay all but the first $175 a day, $170 a day of the cost.
For how many days?
For an additional 80 days.
So this whole scenario is built on 100 days coverage.
Most seniors have a supplemental insurance, and so if Medicare is paying the back end, most supplemental insurances will pay that $170 a day of the front end. So the difference between being a patient and being under observation could be payment for rehab for up to 100 days or not.
Right.
$50,000.
Or more. That's a huge, huge amount of money.
Right.
Wow. So now what happens if you find yourself in the ER and you went there alone? You know, you didn't have a loved one with you and you're not coherent. You're not able to communicate and ask the question, hey, am I a patient or am I under observation? What do you do then?
Well, if you're not coherent, you just kind of go with the flow.
Right.
Hopefully, it would be best if some emergency happened, something that was sending you to the hospital, that you had a 911 buddy, somebody that went with you to the hospital.
An advocate.
Exactly. So I encourage people to have a little card they might carry in their wallet or their purse that says, in case of emergency, call, and you absolutely should have that anyway, with a number or 2 of people who could be called should you be found lying on the sidewalk somewhere or whatever. And so your buddy, 911 buddy, shows up, and you've had a discussion or maybe read the article in Compass and Clock, and you have some appreciation of the questions you should be asking. You know, is my loved one... Now, if you're not 65, you're headed to the emergency room, your medical insurance is going to cover it.
Right.
And most medical insurances have a clause that allow for payment of any emergency room visit. So we're basically, the conversation is about people who are on Medicare.
Correct.
And so you have your 911 buddy, you had the conversation about, well, what kinds of questions should I ask, you know, and is my loved one, have they been admitted, and you need to see the paperwork if they haven't been admitted or whether or not. And if they haven't, you know, the hospital knows how the system works, so you can ask the question, is there anything else you can check on my loved one, or anything else that would allow you to meet the minimum requirements for Medicare that we should know about, and we can help you, because the hospital gets randomly audited and the files get picked out, and the auditor is looking to see if the hospital has admitted someone under Medicare when they haven't actually been eligible for Medicare, and then the hospital gets fined and the auditor gets a bonus, and so the whole system is, you know, there's some validation in the system. They're trying to keep people or make sure people are eligible for the benefit when they're getting the benefit. So it makes some sense. But, you know, it seems to me that if there was something sufficient that brought you to the hospital and you're looking to Medicare to cover this, that there needs to be some allowance there that allows the need to be, or the cost to be covered.
So if somebody is your 911 buddy, is there a legal document required for that? You know, for somebody to be your advocate, to be coming and asking questions, you know, having access maybe to, you know, your list of medications that you take, you know, because I'm helping with my dad right now. He's visiting us and just taking him to the eye doctor. The eye doctor wanted to know what his list of medications are. And I'm like, Dad, what medications do you take? And he didn't know the names of all of them. He knew what they were for. So what should a 911 buddy know? And do they have to have a legal document to be, you know, that advocate for you?
Well, they don't have to have a legal document if you are there to tell the doctor, yeah, you can talk to this person, right? But you don't know that when you go into the hospital you're going to be conscious, right? Or you're going to be competent. And so they should have a power of attorney for health care. And that authorizes the doctor to talk with this person, because the doctor, under the HIPAA, Health Privacy Act, the doctor's not supposed to talk to anyone, not even your spouse. And so if you have a power of attorney, you're authorizing the doctor to talk to this person. And I would suggest the power of attorney be effective immediately, so there's no issue about, well, whether are they competent or not. You know, can I talk to you? Well, it says only if they're incompetent. So if it's effective immediately, there's no reason why your medical power of attorney shouldn't be effective immediately. And then that authorizes the people in the emergency room to talk to your 911 buddy, because they have this little piece of paper.
But my understanding that you just said then is, you know, the power of attorney was something that was already put in place when they worked out their legal documents earlier on in life, because they were planning for their road ahead.
Right.
Once they land in the hospital, that's not the time to be getting a power of attorney and put in place. I mean, they might need to at that point if they didn't have one, but somebody could be your advocate and come in and ask questions, at least. Certain questions, but there are ones that they're not going to get answers to.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and if you have a power of attorney, just go ahead and pull it out, take a picture of it with your phone, right? So then you'll have it with you, and you can say, yeah, see,
great.
Yeah, so that's
good idea.
Yeah, and if you don't have one, you should get one, power of attorney.
So we're going to wrap up this session for today. What parting words do you want to share with our audience about matters as it pertains to Medicare coverage, finding yourself on your own accidental safari? What would you want to share with everybody?
Well, you know, if you find yourself lost in the jungle, you want to have somebody with you. It's nice to have somebody. And so for the medical crisis that could come, identify who your 911 buddy is, and have that person be the person named in your power of attorney, and have it with you. Take a picture and put it on your phone.
Good advice.
Okay.
Which I knew he would provide for us today, because that's Mr. Richard Tizzano. He's full of wonderful advice and wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us today. We look forward to sharing some more invaluable information and tools with you to help you on your road ahead. Have a great day. Bye-bye.